Right now, you are sitting on a weapon of history, and you don't even know it. You did not think about it. You did not question it. But for most of human history, sitting was not a right. It was a privilege, and the object beneath you, right now, was once powerful enough to start wars. This is the untold story of the chair. 10,000 years ago, no one sat on chairs. People crouched, they knelt, they sat on the ground, close to the earth, close to each other. There was no need for furniture that separated one body from another. Then, something changed. In ancient Egypt, a new object appeared, carved from wood, inlaid with gold, reserved only for pharaohs. It was called a throne. A special, often grand chair reserved only for a ruler. Example: the way an office might reserve one chair for its president, ancient Egypt reserved this one for a god-king. And a throne was never just a seat, it was a declaration. To sit above others, literally physically above them, was to announce a hierarchy, a system that ranks people one above another. Example: like the levels of a company, from a new employee at the bottom to a CEO at the top. In this case, the ladder placed the pharaoh at the very top and everyone else beneath his feet. The higher the chair, the higher the soul who sat in it. Or so they wanted you to believe. In Mesopotamia, in China, in the empires of Rome, the pattern repeated. Kings sat, subjects knelt. The chair was not comfort. The chair was authority. Authority, the power to command and be obeyed, given a physical shape. Example: the same way a judge's black robe silently tells a courtroom who is in control, a throne told an empire the same thing without a single word. Here is what few people know. Royal courts did not just control who could sit, they controlled how you sat. Posture was law. A straight spine, a raised chin. This was the posture of nobility. Posture, the way a person holds their body, whether relaxed or rigid, standing tall or slouched. Example: a soldier standing at attention shows posture. So does a queen sitting perfectly still on her throne. To slouch in the presence of a king was not rudeness, it was rebellion. Meanwhile, servants stood for hours, soldiers stood at attention, peasants worked bent over soil, backs aching, knees in mud. To stand while others sat was a visible physical form of submission. The act of accepting someone else's control instead of your own. Example: a dog lowering its head before its owner shows submission. So did a servant, forced to stand for hours while their master rested. Think about that. An entire society organized by the angle of the human spine. In medieval Europe, chairs became so rare that the word chairman was born, not because everyone had a chair, but because almost no one did. Only the head of a household, a guild, or a council was given the seat. Everyone else stood or sat on humble benches or the cold floor. To be given a chair was to be given a voice. But history rarely moves in a straight line. It bends, it resists. By the 1600s, something began to shift in Europe. Merchants grew wealthy, craftsmen grew skilled, and slowly, chairs began appearing in humble homes that were simple and modest without wealth or grand decoration. Not thrones, but plain wooden seats built for ordinary families. For the first time, sitting was no longer only for kings. It terrified the aristocracy. If a merchant could sit as comfortably as a duke, what did that say about status? A person's rank or importance in the eyes of society. Example: the clothes someone wears, the car they drive, even the chair they sit in can all signal status. If a farmer's chair looked almost like a nobleman's, did that mean they were in some small way equal? The chair had quietly become dangerous, not because of its shape, because of what it implied. No one understood this danger better than a king named Louis XIV. At the Palace of Versailles, he turned seating into a weapon of control. He decided who was given a chair with arms, who received a chair without arms, who was permitted only a simple stool, and who, if their rank was too low, was allowed no seat at all, forced to stand for hours in his presence. Historians call it the science of the stool. Nobles studied it obsessively. A single inch of extra height in a chair leg could signal favor or humiliation. Men who had commanded armies trembled over where they were allowed to sit at dinner. Louis never needed to raise his voice. He simply rearranged the furniture, and the entire court understood exactly where they stood, or knelt, or waited. It was a decree, an official command from a ruler that must be obeyed, engineered down to the centimeter. Example: a king declaring a new law is a decree. So was Louis deciding, without ever raising his voice, exactly who deserved a chair with arms. By the time of the French Revolution, this tension exploded. Crowds did not just overthrow kings. They destroyed the ornate, gilded thrones that symbolized everything they hated, a hierarchy they no longer believed was sacred. A chair fell, and with it, an idea of who deserved to rule. Factories changed everything next. Mass production meant chairs could be built cheaply, quickly, by the thousands. What was once reserved for kings could now sit in every kitchen, every classroom, every office cubicle on Earth. Today, you may own 10 chairs, 20. You barely notice them, but look closer, and the old hierarchy still whispers underneath. The CEO's chair is taller, leather, positioned at the head of the table. The interview candidate sits lower, often on a smaller, harder seat. The judge sits elevated above the courtroom. The defendant sits below, hands folded, waiting. Even travel obeys this ancient rule. Step onto an airplane and the hierarchy of Versailles quietly reappears. A curtain divides the cabin. On one side, wide leather seats, extra legroom, a glass of champagne before takeoff. On the other, narrow seats pressed close together, elbows fighting for space. No king designed this. No noble decree demanded it. And yet the logic is identical. A chair signaling exactly how much the world values the body sitting in it. We removed the throne's gold and jewels. We kept its logic. So the next time you sit down, at your desk, at a dinner table, in a waiting room, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how high is this chair? Where is it placed in the room? Who stands and who is seated? We think we have moved beyond thrones, but perhaps we have only made them smaller, quieter, harder to see. Every chair still asks the same ancient question it asked in the court of a pharaoh. Who has earned the right to rest, and who must still stand? The wood has changed. The gold is gone. But the chair, in its own silent way, still decides who rules. If you enjoyed this hidden history, subscribe for more untold stories, because history is full of surprises.